Hello and welcome to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on audiosportsonline.net and XRB Radio, the voice of Hendricks County. Upcoming on this episode, we'll have a big show here tonight. We'll have the privilege of talking to Brownsburg High School football assistant coach and offensive coordinator Josh Yoder, and we'll also review all the action from around Hendricks County sports from last week. The McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show is brought to you by your local Avon or Brownsburg McDonald's. Stop in any Brownsburg or Avon McDonald's and try one of their $2 tasty specials, the jalapeno burger or the triple cheeseburger. McDonald's is a proud supporter of Avon and Brownsburg athletics and is proud to host the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show, taped Wednesday nights on location and aired Friday prior to football on xrbradio.com, 1610 a.m. McDonald's has two locations in Brownsburg and Avon. In Brownsburg, they're located off the corner of Main and Odell next to Marsh, and just off of Green Street next to Interstate 74. In Avon, you can find them at the corner of 267 and 36 next to Kroger, or on Rockville Road next to Meyer. Stop in and try either one of those $2 tasty specials today, the jalapeno burger or the triple cheeseburger. Today is Wednesday, October 8, 2014, from the Green Street McDonald's location in Brownsburg. This is the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. I'm your host, JP Sinclair, and I'm joined by Brownsburg offensive coordinator Josh Yoder. How are you doing tonight, Coach?
Doing great.
Well, it is your first time on the show, and we're very excited to have you on. The first thing I want to ask is you look at this team, and it's almost a completely different offense from what you guys have ran in years past. With sophomore Hunter Johnson being thrown in the mix last year, and then this year, you kind of developed the offense around him a little bit more.
Yeah, last year we started the year off with a senior, and we were a flexbone team, and our senior ended up losing out on his senior season due to a concussion. And so we were forced into a tough situation with Hunter being a freshman, and we continued with the flexbone up until through Harrison, and we started implementing a little bit of the pistol, still keeping some of the core things of what we were doing early in the season, but we started that then kind of getting ready for the next year. And so funny thing happened there in Harrison is Hunter got his shoulder separated, and so he ended up having to sit out half of that game because we were planning on being in the pistol pretty much the whole game, and then we had to revert right back to the flexbone. So it was one of those deals that it was supposed to work out well, didn't work out well, but we ended up winning that game. But what we did was in the offseason is we really went to work as far as studying up on the pistol and studying the blocking schemes and the passing schemes and getting some concepts that kind of meet the strengths of what Hunter can do, throwing the football, using his legs, letting him run around, and then meeting the strengths of our running back, who is an exceptional talent. And now instead of having a guy that would be read on every play that he would have to beat through a hole, he gets everybody blocked. So he gets a chance to go make plays, and he has. He's had a big year so far. So, how
hard is it to change the entire offensive philosophy on this team to better take advantage of those offensive talents like Hunter Johnson, like a Tokes, like Kurtz on the outside?
Yeah. Kurtz last year, probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was not using Kurtz last year as a receiver. He played safety, which we needed a safety. But the hardest challenge was getting it all researched, getting it all the philosophies down for the offensive line because it changed completely. Hunter, he mended or kind of meshed right into that pretty easily. Kurtz was an easy fit as well. He's a natural receiver, and Tokes is a pretty a one-step cut, get up vertical kind of guy. So the blocking schemes suit him really well. It was more of the offensive line focus and the passing concepts that we really didn't have to work on much in the flex because we ran the ball so much. So,
well, I know that before you preferred like a spread option, correct?
Well, it depends who you ask. When you run the flex bone, people want to give it all kinds of different terms. The formation itself is a little more spread out, but yeah, it's not spread option is used loosely. with teams that are in the gun that like to run option, or we were not spread option. We were flex bone option, like Georgia Tech, Navy. Inside veer, midline were the cores of what we did. So, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but it was flex bone.
So when you were at Brownsburg West, did you run the spread option there?
I was never a coach at Brownsburg West. I always was a coach at. I was at Evansville Wrights before I came here, and we ran the flex bone down at Evansville Wrights.
Okay.
And we ended up winning a state championship down there. And that year we had kind of mixed it up a little bit. We ran the flex, and we kind of dinked with some other things, but we had some exceptional talent for that. So,
well, Coach, I mean, how did you get your start as a football coach?
Good question. I actually started coaching when I was in college. I went to Ball State, and my first opportunity to coach was for my home school. So my first coaching experience was at the middle school level, and then the next year was at the varsity level as an offensive line coach. My second year in varsity, or first year varsity coach, I was the offensive line coach, and it taught me a lot. And then I graduated college, and I got my first teaching job down at Evansville Wrights, and then I taught down there and coached down there for 2 years under John Hart, who used to be the head coach at Warren Central and who's now at Huntley. And then I decided to move up to Brownsburg. It was 5.5 hours home from Evansville in the same state, so we tried to move a little bit closer to family and have a family. And then we came to Brownsburg, and we've been here ever since and been really happy.
Now, before you went to Ball State, I know you got your degree there. Mm-hmm. Did you coach, like when you were playing? Did you play high school football?
Yeah, I played high school football at Bluffton High School. And believe it or not, in college, I played 1 year of junior college basketball. So, yeah.
So you're a JUCO prospect.
Yeah, well, a very low JUCO prospect. So, but yeah, I mean, I was a small town guy.
I'm trying to think. Bluffton, that's up in north central Indiana, off of 28 or 26.
It's off of Highway 1, and it's just south of Fort Wayne.
Yep, that's right. It's on the east side of I-69. Yep, I got you.
So yeah, grew up there, small town. You play everything. I played basketball. I played football, and I ran track, and you just did it all, because it's small school, and that's what you did. So,
so what would you say is your favorite formation to coach? Like, I know you guys talked about you guys used to be in the flex bone, and then you went to the pistol, mm-hmm. which if our listeners don't understand, a pistol is not necessarily a true shotgun. Quarterback stands a step behind the center and takes it from a short handoff from the center rather than a pure shotgun.
Yeah, about 4 yards.
About 4 yards instead of about, 6, 7?
5 to 6 is a typical shotgun snap, and we're at about 4.5. We kind of dink with it every now and again. So yeah.
How hard was it for Tokes? You said he was pretty easy to switch, but you got to think that's a completely different handoff setup.
It is a different handoff setup, but what it allows Tokes to do is it gives the offensive line about a second and a half longer to establish their blocks, and then Tokes can read gaps, and he has the uncanny ability to see cuts and see gaps and run through gaps, and so it gives him that opportunity to see it and then go hit it. So it's actually been easier for him. The one problem that he's had early on is just deciding where to go. In the flex bone, he had no choice. He had to stay on a track. He had to go straight forward. There wasn't much room for cutting. This actually has a kind of a little bit of a cut built into it, which suits him, and he's done well. So
with this pistol, do you guys do any kind of zone blocking up front?
Yep, we're all zone. So yeah, it makes the responsibilities of our offensive line a lot easier. Now there's combos and things in there within that, but it helps our offensive line gel and become more concept based.
Can you tell us, let's just pretend I'm really ignorant here. Can you tell us exactly what zone blocking is up front?
Yeah, basically the offensive lineman, when he comes up to the line, he has either an uncovered or covered look. So is there a guy on him or is there not a guy on him?
Typically you have 5 offensive linemen, and usually about 3 or 4 people already on the line of scrimmage.
Exactly.
Correct?
So if there is a guy on them, then it's man blocking. You're going to block the guy that's on you. If there's no man on you, then you're going to zone step to your partner, into that gap. So if it's like, let's say we're running it to the right, that offensive lineman is going to step into his right gap and protect right gap. And if nothing shows, then he goes second level. So it's a pretty simple scheme that with more reps and more reps and more reps, your offensive line gains more confidence over time. It's nice in the sense that the rules are pretty clear. So you can line up a lot of different defenses and be able to still zone block. The key is letting the guy know that, look, this is man blocking until you're uncovered.
So do you think that's part of the reason why Tokes is having such an incredible year this year?
I would like to think so. Our offensive line is a bunch of young guys, which is really good to have, because we're going to have quite a few of these guys back. But yeah, I think the concepts up front, mixed in with Tokes being a pretty good football player, helped him out a lot. Yeah, absolutely. So,
well, how much structuring of the offensive game plan needs to be changed on a game-to-game basis?
Yeah, it depends. Usually, we make sure that we have our core set of run plays that we run from June to August, and those core run plays may have a few tweaks each week, but for the most part, we want to establish that core every game, and dictate to the defense that you're going to need to stop it. Now, we do throw in some wrinkles as far as formations and maybe some motions, but we try to dress it up and do the things that we do well. So,
how much of that game plan goes into practice on any given week when you're making those changes?
Say that again.
Well, how much of the game plan do you have, like when you have to change your game plan to try and disguise what you guys are going to do up front? As you said, dress it up. Most of that, I take, comes in practice or on the field or in the film room.
Yeah, well, like that kind of goes back to the research side of it. Is we tried to build a lot of things in concept. So changing formations, we changed our formation names so that they can be more adaptable. So we can change guys really easily. We can switch things around. We also came up with different ways to names for motion so that we can motion our guys the way we want to and on a week-to-week basis, and it's not a lot of extra knowledge that they have to know. It's already kind of built in, and they can just play.
Can you take us through like how the general week works for you after starting, for example, after Friday in the game, starting on Saturday?
Yeah, on Saturday what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll break down the film from the night before, and we'll grade. So I help the offensive line coach. It's kind of like what I love the offensive line. That's where I started. So Coach Dennis will break down all the grades for the offensive line. I'll break down the grades for our H and our tight ends. And then we'll go to film with the players, and we'll review the film, go through all the goods and the bads.
Now, is that on Monday?
That's on Saturday.
That's on Saturday.
Yeah, that's all on Saturday. Then our players, usually if there's a JV game, they'll go out, watch a JV game, go home. And then on Sunday, we'll come back in as a staff. Saturday night, we watch our film. And then as we come in as a staff, and we have a 2 to 3 hour meeting as to, okay, what formations do we like? How do they line up to us? How do they, what are the different philosophies of that defense? And we'll draw all that up, talk about it, add our wrinkles, and then we'll write the game plan. And then on Monday, we'll come in, we'll show the kids the film of the new opponent, and we'll give them the packets of little maybe tweaks that we have. And then we go out, we line up, show it to them on the field, and then we'll come out and run some plays against it, just kind of on-air kind of thing, real light. And then Tuesday we come out and we get after it. Wednesday we do a lot of more situational things, working on third down, working in the goal line, working on our 2-minute. And then Thursday we try to clean everything up. And then Friday it's go day, So we go get after it on Friday.
It's a pretty busy week.
It is kind of a grind, but it's a grind that I enjoy. I enjoy watching these kids take on a new game plan and then being able to go out and execute it.
What was the best game you feel like you've ever called as an offensive coordinator against a quality opponent?
I would have to say Avon. This year, our guys, I wouldn't say that I necessarily called a great game. Our guys executed the game plan And that doesn't mean, that I'm calling great plays and just blowing everybody's mind. It's the guys being able to go out and execute the concepts that we've worked on all summer, or a tweak that we worked on all week, and execute it when it matters. And our guys did that. They did that really well. So that was, for this year, that's probably one of the best that our guys have done. So
yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the scary things about being a coach is you do so much prep and try and get your players as ready as possible, but in the end, it all comes down to them.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes down to execution, and that's where maybe some of the young kids don't understand how important practice is and how important every rep is, because if you're not getting that rep right in practice and you only get of a single play, you may only get a few in the week, and you got to execute it on Friday. If you can't do it in the week, you're probably not going to be able to do it Friday. So,
well, I know, obviously you've been able to change up your system a little bit. Are you married to any one system, or have you able to change your approach basically on the personnel that you have?
Well, I guess I wouldn't say I'm married to any system. I'm sure I would get a tag of a flexbone guy, and I know a lot of probably people in the community, BJFL coaches, are probably shocked at the fact that we're not in the flex. But I really we had a long discussion with Coach Comer, and he was nervous about the switch because we've had so much success in the flex in the past. But no, I think this is a decision by our staff that this is the direction we want to go with the players that we have. And I think in the long run, we could probably go in between the two systems and be just fine. But our guys like what we're doing. They're having fun in practice. They enjoy the system. They enjoy we're throwing it around more than we ever have, and we're successful with it. And that allows kids to have fun, and that's fun for us too. So,
what can you say about Hunter Johnson? I mean, he's only a sophomore. Got thrown in a little bit with the Wolves last year as a freshman. But he's only a sophomore, and he still has a lot more growth ahead of him. And he's grown so much this year.
Sure, Hunter is an exceptional talent. He's probably one of the most polished quarterbacks I've been around, and I've been around a very good one. We had a Mr. Football down in Evansville. He won for the whole entire state, and that guy was an exceptional talent. But he didn't have the height. He didn't have the throwing ability. He doesn't have some of the things, the talents that Hunter has, but he had the moxie. He had the
intangibles.
The intangibles, and that's something that Hunter brings. Is he's got those skills, but he's young, and some of those the intangibles are still coming. But he is exceptional. When it comes to making reads, throwing the ball on time, throwing the ball in an accurate way. That's
been one of the things that I've been most surprised when I look at his numbers, just how accurate he's been this year.
Yep. And that's something that he's worked extremely hard on in the offseason. He travels all over the place to get good coaching and perfect his skill.
Do you have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to players' misconduct off the field?
Oh, as in which?
Like if they do any kind of rule breaking inside the classroom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Let's if a player misses a practice or misses, let's say, a Saturday or something, the policy is that he will not start the next game. So if there is something that happens in the classroom, we handle that as a staff, and we decide the punishment, whether it be running, whether it be up downs, whether it be it's some of it's situational.
Accordingly.
Yeah. Not every situation warrants being benched, but you got to kind of handle what the actual situation is.
What would you say your dream job is as a head coach?
As a head coach, I don't know. I guess I've always had.
Or better yet, just any kind of coordinator position. Is it the NFL the ultimate goal for you?
Oh no, I don't think so. I like this level. It's true. Kids are playing because it's the love of the sport. They're not playing for a paycheck, even though those guys play extremely hard. The hours that those coaches put in doesn't really entice me that much. I like my family. I like my free time. Yeah. But I guess sometime down the road, if like a small D3 job opened up or something and somebody called or whatever, that'd probably be something I'd be interested in, but not right now. So,
what do you think is the most important aspect to having a championship-level team?
well, the most important is the kids buying in. The kids buying in the off season, because it starts there. Whenever your season ends, if they buy into the weight room, they buy into the conditioning, and then they buy into the summer practice and each other. They've got to buy into each other and build that bond. Then the practice levels increase, and you get better participation, and then you get a better bond with the kids, and they, iron on iron, and they practice harder and get better.
Well, I do want to talk to you a little bit about that Zionsville game. Offensive points were really at a premium in this one last week, what with the weather and everything. How much did that affect your team, and particularly on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I would like to say they didn't affect us at all, and it just boils down to guys making plays. But there were a few plays that stand out that guys, were open. Guys slipped. Balls were not thrown as normal in a dry setting, and overthrown or underthrown, and then bobbled catches and things like that. So yeah, the weather played a part, but you got to tip your hat to Zionsville because they threw it around and made the catches, and our guys didn't, and that's what's
it's hard to do in that weather.
Yeah, that's hard to deal with. And it was wet, it was cold, but they're in it too, and they executed and we didn't, and that's probably one of the hardest things to take away from that game.
Well, Coach, it doesn't get any easier for your team this week, having to face a very tough Noblesville team. They have lost 2 straight, but are still a very tough HCC team. It's an interesting team, particularly when you look at their quarterback situation.
Yeah, they do some interesting things on offense. A little bit of a 2-quarterback offense. And they're both pretty good runners, but they like to stretch you all the way to the edge and then run up inside with some power games with the quarterback. So it's going to take our defense to be gap sound and be attention to detail and to their assignment and do their job. And hand it to Noblesville. They started off really well, and so did we. But they've had a slide, and we've had a slide. So this will be a really good matchup, a really good game. Our defense has practiced really well all week. So I think this can be a really good game.
Well, I do want to ask you one more question. What can you say about the continued growth of this team offensively when you look at the fact that arguably your 3 best skill position and offensive players this season all return next year in Tokes, Tyler Kurtz, and then Hunter Johnson?
Yeah, those guys are undoubted skill position leaders. But to build on them, our offensive line has got to step up a little bit more in this offseason. Got to come together, lift. Now we've got some good offensive linemen coming. We're really excited about those guys, but they have got to come together as a group. And our offensive line is kind of funny. We have young guys, but we do have a rusher that's over 1,100 yards already this year. We still got 2 games to play. We've put up some pretty big numbers in the passing game. We have gave up some sacks, but a lot of people will always throw the offensive line under the bus. And for being a young group, they've done a really nice job, and they just got to continue that. Where I'd like to see them get better is inside the red zone when their defense knows we're going to run it and we're going to run it. Being able to go ahead and punch it in. That's the youth of those guys. Getting into the off season and lifting and building better strength to make our skill guys that much better. So.
Well, Coach, I wish you the best of luck this week against Noblesville and continuing along with the rest of the season as it continues to wind down. I cannot believe how fast it's gone. We'll take a quick time out, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Chris Worley as we break down all the action from around Hendricks County. You're listening to the McDonald Hendricks County Sports Show on AudioSportsOnline.net. Welcome back. This is the McDonald Henry County Sports Show on audiosportsonline.net and brought to you by your local Brownsburg or Avon McDonald's. You can stop in any Brownsburg or Avon McDonald's and try one of their two $2 tasty specials, the jalapeno burger or the triple cheeseburger. McDonald's is a proud supporter of Avon and Brownsburg athletics and is proud to host the McDonald's Henry County Sports Show, taped Wednesday nights on location and aired Friday nights before football on xrbradio.com, 1610 a.m. McDonald's has two locations in Brownsburg and Avon. In Brownsburg, they're located at the corner of Main and Odell next to Marsh, and just off of Green Street next to Interstate 74, where we're currently at today. In Avon, you can find them at the corner of 267 and 36 next to Kroger, or on Rockville Road next to Meyer. Stop in and try one of those $2 tasty specials today. Well, now I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Worley, and let's talk a little bit about last week, Chris. We continued along in our own Pick'em Challenge. In last week's games, you had Ben Davis over Carmel, and the Greyhounds proved victorious, winning that one 37-14, and I was surprised, a little bit of a one-sided matchup.
Yeah, I was too. That just shows their power, and to go on the road like that and win, that was big. So, no doubt. Okay, that was one for you.
That was one for me.
Okay.
And then in our next matchup, we both scored wins as Tri-West beat Western Boone in a great matchup, 2013, in a really solid game.
Yeah, big conference win. Jay Kindershot again doing his thing. And, who was that? West, I forget his last name. I'm sorry. He had 2 touchdowns. So, Tri-West marches on. And I think come tournament time, at that level, they're going to be tough to beat.
Now, they're 3A, correct?
Right.
3A.
Yep.
I know they're ranked, last I checked, and with that kind of record, it's not surprising to see why.
Sure, I expect them to go far.
Then it came down to their mid-state matchup as Decatur Central faced off against the Greenwood Woodmen and really dominated. 34-0 in this one. So, I went 2-0 on the week, and you went 1-0 on the I went 2-0 on the week, so when it was all said and done, we're pretty much tied up at 7-7.
7-7, that's right. I went to the IU game on Saturday, and I was thinking about Tommy Stevens, and he's an IU recruit, right?
Yeah, he is an IU recruit. I did read in the Star this week, though, that he did take a trip to Notre Dame over the weekend.
Okay.
He has not changed his commitment status from IU, and he said in the interview that they had with him that he's still IU all the way and is looking forward to playing down there in Bloomington. But he did take a little bit of trip with some of his friends to go see Notre Dame play last weekend.
Well, that's a big show up there. It's kind of, the IU crowd was terrible. So that if a kid goes to Notre Dame game and then he goes to IU, there's no question where if you get a chance to play, you're going to want to go to South Bend. But hopefully he'll keep a commitment and go to IU.
Yep. But first, before we
got our picks
our picks this week. This week's 3 feature games are number 1 Carmel and number 2 Warren Central. I know it seems like we've always had Carmel, Warren Central, and Ben Davis, but there's a reason behind that. But this week's feature games we're going to start with number 1 Carmel versus number 2 Warren Central. Both teams enter the matchup undefeated, and this one will have a lot of local media coverage.
Sure, that's the biggest game in Central Indiana this year. Yep, right this week. Yep, no doubt about it. Now, who picks first this week?
I picked first last week. Or no, you picked first last week. So I guess I got to pick first this week.
Thank goodness in this game.
It's hard to bet against Warren Central. I mean, they're just one of those programs that, they're always good. I remember being in high school, and that was the team that you weren't ever going to stand a chance against. So I'm going to go with Warren Central. I'm going to go with my gut and pick Warren Central, but I would not be surprised if Carmel won this one with the way they play defense.
Well, I kind of think Warren, they want to come back and be the Kings this year. They're having a tremendous season. But if you're going with Warren, I'm going to go with the Carmel Greyhounds in this one.
All right, so I have the Warren Central Warriors on that one. That's going to be a good game. I hope that one's on locally on HSTN or something because I want to record that one to watch that one.
No doubt.
Our next game is number 5 Avon versus 2-5 Zionsville, who's coming off that big win against Brownsburg, and you can't sleep on them.
Right. No doubt about it, but I wouldn't see, Avon's really looking to be, they may be the best team in the HCC. 2 weeks ago we were saying Fishers was. Well, and then guess who beat Fishers? Avon. Yep, so now look at them. Here they are coming in, I think, 5-2. So I'm going with Coach Bless. Avon, no doubt, in this game. I think they'll get the job done. Zionsville, the conditions played a role in that. Their defense was good. They have some talented players. There's no doubt about it. But, they started off the season 1-5, so they came back a little bit. But I see Avon overpowering Zionsville this week.
I'm going to go with Avon as well, and my reason being is how big of a game Derek Tennant had.
Right.
They weren't splitting the carries with Darian Love in that one.
Yeah.
Last week it was all Derek Tennant, and it was his show.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he also did a good job receiving the ball. I think that continues as they continue to wind down towards the end of the regular season. I think Avon wants to end it on a high note, and right now they're at the top of the HCC, so they're going to be a tough team to beat, so I'm going to go with Avon as well.
With you on that one.
And my next and last game is a mid-state game because I like to have mid-state in there.
Right.
We have 4-3 Martinsville squaring off against 3-4 Mooresville.
Now, JP, I didn't catch where that game was at.
I believe. Let's see. We're at Plainfield's at Martinsville this week, so I'm going to guess they're home, but I'll have to double check on that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's see now. This would be my pick.
It would be your pick.
Okay. The Artesians, Martinsville, for me.
I'm going to go with Faber and the Mooresville Pioneers. They really impressed me this year, and I'll tell you what, Faber is the real deal if you have not had a chance to see him from Mooresville. He's had an excellent season. Don't get me wrong, I think the Artesians are a very good, very, very solid team this year. But when it comes to what I've seen from Mooresville and the way they've turned that program around, you think about this was a program that was led by Coach Bless.
Yeah.
And it really struggled after he left, but they're really starting to pick up the pieces now and starting to get a good head of steam going, and it really all starts with the quarterback play of Faber. So I got the Pioneers in this one.
Okay, here we go. So that's going to give us a split again. We can't end up tied after this week.
Well,
we're coming down to our last couple of weeks here, JP.
Well, that's a good thing. That means it's close.
7-7.
So that is our Pick'ems challenge for this week. And let's go ahead and start talking about some of the results. And we're going to start with Brownsburg, as we always do. But speaking of Brownsburg, I do want to give a little bit of an honorable mention to our old friend Steve Lynch, the boys varsity coach for Brownsburg for basketball and also a math teacher there as well. Recently inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame for his work as the assistant basketball coach for the Southwest Missouri State. Who went to the NCAA Sweet 16 in '99
with Coach Alford.
Coach Alford, yep, Steve Alford was the head coach during the tournament run and was inducted in the same ceremony into their Hall of Fame. So obviously, I want to send a personal congratulations to Coach Lynch and that achievement.
Very good. I'm glad you saw that. Yeah, that's big time. A Hall of Famer now. We can call him. We'll call it when he gets on the show and if we do basketball. We'll call him that. You're a Hall of Famer now, Coach Lynch. But certainly a big season here at Brownsburg. You
got to get excited for that.
Yeah, 18-2. I don't know if he can match it because lost some good kids to graduation, but outstanding for Coach Lynch to get that honor.
Well, let's go and talk about that football game against Zionsville. The varsity team traveled to nearby Zionsville on Friday night to take on the Eagles, and really and truly the weather. Unfortunately, for the Bulldogs, they ended up on the wrong side of the score. 16-3 was the final. Jose Hacker connected on a tough early first quarter field goal. Despite the wind and the rain to give the Dogs the lead that they would hold almost really through halftime. Unfortunately, though, missed opportunities cost the team a lot of offensive opportunities throughout the game and ultimately led to their defeat. The defense led the Eagles to a 3-and-out on 9 of their 13 drives, with Tyler Kurtz blocking a late field goal attempt to keep the Dogs in the game until the very end. They just couldn't get it done, though.
The offense just went nowhere, and as Coach Yoder talked about, boy, what a fine young man he was. He's a brilliant offensive mind. He did a good job.
I had a heck of a time interviewing him.
That was instructional. We learned some things there. But, the offense just couldn't get moving. And Hunter, I think that was, first of all, that was the team's, and everybody could say this past Friday night with the bad weather. That was the team's first game and Hunter's first game as the leading quarterback in bad weather. And I don't think he handled it well. I asked at one point, during the game, I says, does he have a towel on? You know how quarterbacks will wear a towel, they dry off their hands, because I don't know. And then I saw that he did, but a lot of bad throws. I think they just slipped out of his hand. It's hard to learn how to deal with that weather, and that was his first experience of it. So hopefully that's a learning thing, and he can come back. We don't want to lay this all on Hunter, but the passing offense couldn't go anywhere, and Zionsville defense did good. Brownsburg defense did well this time. That was one of their better games, but tough conditions made it a tough game for the Bulldogs and lose on the road to Zionsville.
Yeah, I mean, those conditions were pretty rough. I was at the Franklin Community Plainfield game, and the weather conditions were pretty bad down there, too. Franklin Community coughed the ball up about 5 different times due to the weather. I was talking to Lex Zorn, who had the call with me on that one. You look at Plainfield and their offense they run, they're a power I, just a very short handoff formation, go up and down the middle, and it really worked out well for them compared to Franklin Community, as you saw, running that flex bone. You got a lot of pitch outs and a lot of bit of longer throws, and there was a lot of miscues, and I think a lot of it was due to the weather. Yeah. I know their head coach was not happy at all at the end of that one.
Yeah, a simple offense is the best in those kind of conditions. Brownsburg just found themselves in a position, oftentimes 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, they had to throw, and they weren't completing their passes. So it was a long night, a disappointing night. Now that's Brownsburg has lost 3 in a row, so they need to rebound this week, and as you said with Coach Yoder, going to be tough.
Yeah, and you even said last week that was going to be a must-win game,
I thought
and
it was, yep.
They couldn't quite get it done, but really and truly, as the season continues to wind down, this is a game that they really need. And it will be senior night, as they'll honor the seniors this Friday night, and they'll take on the Noblesville Millers.
Right. One other thing that come out of that game, though, we're a little worried about is a couple big Brownsburg injuries. Bryce Toll may not be ready to go this week. Brad Geilinger, our buddy who's been on this show, he sustained an injury. We're not sure about him on senior night. So there's two seniors that may not be able to play their senior night. We're not sure yet. So we'll just have to see. But just not a good trip up to Zionsville. I don't like playing up there, JP. So nothing good ever happens up there. Brownsburg lost last year there. So going to be tough.
Well, the boys cross-country team ran to a sixth-place finish in Saturday's Hoosier Crossroads Conference meet, edging number 18 state-ranked Noblesville by just 1 point. Harry Sathamurthy finished with a team-high fourth place overall in possibly his strongest race of the year yet. Yeah. Mark Bond, in his first race of the season, ran an incredible time at 16:28 over the 3.1-mile course to be the number 2 Bulldog to cross the line, and really he hadn't really had much action up until that point, so a pretty good time when you think about being thrown into the fire and getting that kind of a time. And then Seth Webster ran a great race to break 17 minutes for the first time on the year for him.
Right, and I saw now cross-country sectionals, they're about ready to, I think they're this Saturday.
This weekend.
Right, and I didn't see a location on the Brownsburg website, it just said to be announced. So
yeah, I didn't see one either.
Okay.
I looked.
It's sectionals this Saturday, and hopefully they can advance with that. It's going to be tough for them, but good long season for those guys. That's a lot of hard work cross-country running.
The girls' cross-country team ran one of their better finishes of the season at their conference meet Saturday as well, along several of the state's best runners and teams. Earning all-conference recognition with a top 20 finish was Julia Popenfoos in 13th with a near-best time of 19:18, and Cassidy Brown in 6th place, also with a near-best time of 19 minutes and 38 seconds. The Bulldogs finished in 6th place overall and now are on their way to postseason action with sectionals this Saturday. So we want to wish the best of luck to the girls and boys, and congrats on the great season so far.
Good luck. And from what I've seen on the weather forecast, Saturday should be okay for them.
Yeah, you were saying that Friday has a chance of rain up through midday. So
Saturday should be okay from what I saw. By the time they run, they'll probably run sometime mid-morning or so. 50s, but sunshine.
The boys' varsity tennis team concluded their season with a 5-0 loss in the semifinal round of sectional play against Avon. Senior Sam Peterson did his best to keep the Bulldogs alive in the tournament by pushing his opponent to a third set. But congrats to the seniors on that team, Michael Jeffrey, Sam Peterson, and Mason Wittes for their athletic achievements throughout the years, and wish them luck in their future endeavors.
Yeah, tough season for Brownsburg tennis. We had Karen Starkey, the head coach, on the show, and she did a tremendous job. So I expect them to bounce back. But their final record this year was 3-14. So they had wins over McCutcheon, Noblesville, and Covenant Christian this year. But a tough year, and that Avon squad has really been good in tennis. So hopefully Brownsburg will get better. They're developing some young people that Karen liked, like we talked about.
The volleyball team lost to Ritter last night 1-3, leading the offense with her serves received and passing was Riley Cookerly. The Volley Dogs really struggled to put the ball in the court, though. Their defense was led by Riley Cookerly with 22 digs, but they just really struggled offensively in that one.
Yeah, they did. Hey, you mentioned Riley. I've seen this team a couple times. I saw him again last week, but boy, she's a tough girl. I think she's just a sophomore, but boy, she is a leader out on that court. They have good young leadership. Juniors, Claire Hathaway's their most vocal leader, and she's a junior, so volleyball next year will be really good, I expect. And they've had a good season this year. I think you have it here. It was 17-5.
17-5.
Yeah,
so 17-5 and 4-1 in the HCC. And they improved to that mark with a 3-1 victory over Zionsville. Leading the offense was Brooke Gregory and Avery Brown with 19 and 13 kills apiece. The defensive standouts were once again Riley Cookerly and Avery Brown with 18 and 17 digs, respectively. Yeah. The volleyball team celebrated senior night with Jessica Van Loo and Kayla Knox, and really made it a big success with the win.
Yeah, senior night, of course, always big. Now, this team only had 2 seniors, but still, they did a fine job honoring them, and thank goodness they got out that that night and got a win over Zionsville. So there's a Brownsburg win over Zionsville in that Zionsville-Brownsburg football week, but the girls did a good job. They have a busy week. They played last night. They're playing tonight.
Yeah, we talked about that ramped-up schedule for volleyball at the
and
end.
They're at Noblesville tomorrow night, so 3 games just this week, and I think they have a tournament also this weekend. So
Yep,
I don't see how the girls and the parents do it.
They were at Roncalli last night. They host Tri-West tonight. They're at Noblesville tomorrow, and then they also play in the Clinton Prairie Invitational this weekend, so probably another 3 or 4 matches there. And then they're at Western Boone Monday night.
Yep. Good season. Keep going, girls.
Brownsburg faces off against Avon in the 2A boys soccer tournament tonight.
Yeah.
The girls soccer team faces Avon as well in the 2A girls soccer tourney tomorrow night.
What's your Twitter handle? We need somebody to get us a tweet on that.
At Sinclair JP. I'm right here. Yeah. Phone's right here.
This show doesn't air till Friday. I'm sorry.
Well, that's true. It's not live.
Yeah, I'd like to know, though. We'll find out afterwards. Avon-Brownsburg rivalry right here in the soccer tournament.
Yeah, Avon's going to be tough to beat in that soccer tournament.
Yeah.
They've had an outstanding year. Both those teams are ranked, boys and girls as well. But hopefully,
could win a state championship.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Brownsburg pulled off the upset. We know how that rivalry goes.
Yeah, boy, that'd be sweet for those kids.
Let's go and take a look now at Plainfield High School. The Plainfield football team improved to 2-5 following a 31-19 win at Franklin Community in a rain-soaked matchup. Plainfield played their best game of the season, really, and capitalized on the mistakes made by the Grizzly Cubs, who fumbled the ball multiple times in this game, and it was a weird game to call, but I'll tell you what, like I said, it really all came down to the simple up-and-down play of the Quakers compared to the either side play of Franklin Community.
Was Jacob Maple good in that game?
He was pretty good, but I'll tell you what, Dylan Foster was even better. He's continuing to improve. You know, I've said his name a lot so far this season. Well, the first game out, it was against Roncalli. Nobody knew in the press box who he was. He's still not on the roster for this Plainfield Quaker team, but he's continuing to improve week in and week out. I believe last week he had 3 or 4 touchdowns. I can't remember what, either one. But he's continued to improve all season long, and as that conditioning gets under him, I think he'll be really good if they do, by chance get into, obviously they're going to get into sectionals, but depending on who they draw, as long as it's not Bishop Chittard or if it's not Roncalli, I wouldn't be surprised if they got a first-round win with the way he's continuing to improve.
Yeah, and I'm glad for those kids. They've struggled this season. You go on the road, and that's a real nice school. That's a big-time facility there, and then you get a road win on a tough night. So I know those kids feel good. I bet you they have a good week of practice this week. Who do they play Friday?
They play Whiteland at home Friday.
Yeah, I bet you they're going to have a good week of practice, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get another win this week.
Yeah, Whiteland also runs that Flexbone. Avon faced them earlier this year. They have probably one of the, from what I've been told anyway, one of the best wide receivers in the state that they also have on that team, and is also a return specialist for that team. So we'll have to. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, and I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah. Good luck to Plainfield. I'm glad those kids got a win down there.
The boys soccer team finished 11-3-3 on the season. They fell to Avon in the 2014 IHSAA Class 2A state tournament on October 6th, 3-1. That's how Avon advanced. Right. The girls soccer team finished their season against Mooresville yesterday on October 7th. In their sectional, their Class 2A sectional, they lost 2-0. So those 2 seasons are over. And it really, you got to kind of feel for Plainfield because they had a heck of a season on boys soccer. Yeah,
we mentioned that last week, and then guess who they have to play, first round? Avon, which could win the state championship, like we said. So that was a very tough matchup, but look at the record. Those kids got to be happy. That's a good season.
The Quaker Ladies varsity volleyball team is now 19-10 on the season. They had a very busy week last week. They beat Cascade 3-1. They lost to Terre Haute North Vigo 0-2. They beat Mooresville 2-0, and then they beat Clay City 2-0, Edgewood 2-0, and then Greenwood 3-1. And they face Whiteland next Tuesday.
Yep. That volleyball schedule's busy.
Lastly, now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Avon. The Avon football team got a big win against a very good HCC team in Westfield, as we talked to Coach Bless last week about, and they were a little bit worried about the weather, but they got the job done. 23-6 was the final in that one. Avon continues to look improved the longer the season goes on. Junior Brandon Peters threw for over 100 yards and a touchdown, but senior Derek Tennant was the real story in this game. He went beast mode in this game, rushing 34 times for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he also had 6 receptions for 37 yards and a receiving touchdown as well.
Yeah, he's got 6 touchdowns overall now, so he kind of caught up. The other running back, Love, was leading them for a while. So, and a good job by the Avon defense. They played tough, so that was a big win. I was surprised at that score. We saw Westfield put up some points against Brownsburg, but boy, Coach Bless, and I'm really hopeful they can keep going and get the job done. Now this week they are at Zionsville's at Avon.
Yep.
Right, Zionsville's at Avon, so I expect them to get that job done too.
Well, you go at we have the HCC standings right in front of us. I mean, Avon's right there at the top. You look at it
5-2
in the conference, 3-1, 5-2 overall, really tied with Fishers.
Yep.
They're the same record.
And I think, second in defense. Who's let up the most points or least points in the conference? Noblesville at 57. Then just behind them is Avon. So we talk about Brandon Peters and Tennant. That's what media does. They're star players in scoring. But
that's
Avon,
my fault.
But Avon defense has been great. And I'm sorry, the young man we had on this, Nick
on the very first show, Nick Hanlon.
Yeah, we had him on last week, and I just looked today. He's like the third leading tackler. So they're having guys step up on defense.
Yeah, I was worried a couple of weeks ago when you talked about their after that Brownsburg game. One of their big defensive players on the line went down, but they haven't lost much of a step.
No, that's an outstanding effort against Westfield last week. So I think that if you talk to we'll talk to him next week. But Coach Bless, I'm sure he would point to his defense. It's just outstanding that game.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting coming sectional time. I can't wait to see who they draw. I believe the sectional draw show is coming up as well.
Yeah,
next week I believe. It's either a week or two from
we looked at that sectional, and I don't have it in front of me. It's Brownsburg, Avon, Ben Davis, and Pike.
Yeah, that's not exactly the best.
I think so.
I hope they get Pike.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for everybody, but really impressed by the way Avon's come in here. They lost. Look at their season. They started out 2-2 through their first 4 games. Ever since that Brownsburg loss, they've won 3 straight. Ever since Brownsburg defeated Avon, they've lost 3 straight. So those two teams kind of went in opposite direction, and Avon's certainly going upwards and doing a better job here.
Yeah, I mean, really and truly, when your 2 losses on the season are against one of the top teams in the state in Ben Davis,
right.
And then your other one is a loss to arguably your biggest rival in Brownsburg. Yeah. It's still a very, very solid season. They got good games on the schedule that could help them when it comes to sectional play coming up.
Yeah, that schedule includes, like we said, Zionsville this week at home, and then their last game at Noblesville. So that may be a good defensive battle there. So if they can get those 2 done, they would finish at 7-2, and that's a great season for Avon football.
The girls' soccer team plays Brownsburg tomorrow in the sectional matchup, as we talked about. The Avon High School boys team faces Brownsburg tonight in the sectional matchup. I can't wait to see what the score is of that one. As we talked about, those 2 schools, any sport, I don't care if it's basketball, I don't care if it's football, soccer, they're just a good rivalry.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Boys tennis started their sectionals with a 5-0 win over Danville. So good start to their postseason.
Right, I checked, and I think that's what the high school media had. Is regionals were tonight, and it shows their regionals at Brownsburg. Now I don't know about that, but regionals this week, and then I think semi-states this week, and the high school state finals is the 18th. So I don't know if Avon can get all the way there or not. Like we talked about in tennis, it's always the same people: North Central, Park Tudor, Center Grove. In tennis, but Avon's got a chance to go a long way here, and we're in the regionals this week.
The volleyball team won at Martinsville 3-0 last week, and they also scored a win over Westfield 3-1. They play at Zionsville Thursday and at Columbus East Saturday for the Columbus East invite. So we talked about that rough volleyball schedule at the end.
Yeah, it is, and they still got a ways to go. They got a couple weeks to go, really, before tournament starts.
Yeah, October's really my favorite time of the year.
So much going on.
You have so much, exactly. You have sectionals coming up for all these different sports. Mm-hmm. Football, high school football is winding down. You're almost about 4 or 5 weeks in for NFL.
Yeah.
You got baseball. It's October.
Right.
It's baseball playoff time. I know you're a Cardinals fan. Believe they beat the Dodgers.
Right. Last night.
I didn't see it, but Kershaw was on the mound for the Dodgers in that one, wasn't he?
Yeah, they beat him twice in that series. Cardinals beat Kershaw twice. So
Kershaw Manning.
Job.
That's what I want to call him, Kershaw Manning.
That's right. Yeah, I heard that comparison too, as far as postseason performance. But, yeah, and it's a chore, and you're doing a good job. We're both trying to keep up with all the high school sports we can now, and that's it. So many people focus on college and pro, but these high school sports, especially, right now, this tournament season, you're coming down to a lot of sports, and these kids are out there giving it their all. We heard heard from Coach Yoder tonight. They're working hard in practice each week, getting ready. So big couple weeks here in football as well as all the other sports, JP.
And don't forget, basketball's right around the corner. That's the best time to be an Indiana Hoosier right there is when basketball's getting started.
Coach Young and Pacer pregame was last night.
Pacer pregame last night. I have that one. I started to watch that one when I was eating my dinner before the show here tonight. Okay. I got that one recorded. I was listening to Boyle and Boyle and Slick break that one down. And it's really,
Slick going to be back on radio again this year?
Yeah, he was doing the pregame. It was on NBA TV. It was their call, but it was really just the in-stadium feed that you would see, like if you're going to a concession stand with them voiced over it. And it I'm still going to watch and listen to the rest of that.
Proud of you, JP. Yeah, we all love Slick, Of course, he's getting up there now, but he's a Hall of Famer. He just got in the Hall of Fame, so that's fantastic. But, very busy time of year, JP.
Yeah, WFYI did a really great breakdown on his story, and really his humble beginnings, really, in the avenues and West Terre Haute. So I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to catch that. It was a very, very well put together story.
I did see that. It's worth watching. He's a Hoosier legend.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I knew Slick from Pacers. I did not know all the stuff he had done prior to.
That's right. And he tells, I'm sorry, but he tells a good story about when he was at IU. Yeah. And that team got very successful.
And he said his head coach there.
Right. And then they came back, and I forget what tournament when it was. Was it when they won the national championship? I don't know.
They won the national title, I believe, his freshman year. And then, his sophomore year, and then his senior year, they got back, but they couldn't quite get the job done.
Right. But I remember he talked about how wonderful it was when they came back into town on a train or something. They came in came to Indianapolis, they went down to Bloomington on a train or something, or in cars. He said the whole route from Indianapolis down to Bloomington was lined with fans on the way, and they couldn't believe all the fans. That was a different time back then, of course. Everybody didn't watch it on TV, so they wanted to get out and see those Hoosier stars. But that is a fantastic story.
Yep. So it's like I said, so much sports to cover right now. It's a great time to be a member of the media. This is October is the best time of the year.
Yep.
So it's my favorite time of the year, and I'm sure it's also yours. Like I said, with everything that's going on in high school sports, plenty to cover. As we talked about, sectionals winding down for soccer. Tennis is really starting their regionals, and football's only got a couple more weeks left.
Cross country this week.
Cross country's this week as well. So. A lot of results will be broken down next week when it comes to who's doing what in those sectional games.
Right, no doubt about it. Volleyball too. Now we'll be at Avon next week.
Yep, we'll be at Avon's 267 location next to Kroger next week. I believe it's still 267. I know it's north of 36 there. It's called something else, but technically it's the 267 location. That's the bottom line. So,
well, like we talked about, Avon's got a big game this week, so hopefully they can get it done, at home against Zionsville. I certainly see that getting done, but don't forget about Brownsburg. This is senior night. That means a lot to these kids.
Yep.
Hopefully that'll give them a mental rally point. And I want to thank Coach Yoder for coming out. Boy, he's
he was great. I had a heck of a time talking to him.
Yep, and like I said, I told him afterwards, I'm kind of worried about this getting out and some other.
We might have to keep this one under wraps a little bit.
So seeing that guy and saying, "Wow, what a brilliant guy! Let's get him for our offensive coordinator." But we want him to stay in Brownsburg a long time. Fantastic part of Coach Comer's staff.
Well, that'll just about do it for the show. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
All good. Big week again here, JP.
It's been a great show for us. I loved having Coach Yoder on, and everything else we talked about. The McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show was written by me, JP Sinclair, and produced and distributed by AudioSportsOnline.net. Some of the music provided tonight from Mevio's Music Alley. You can check them out at music.mevio.com. I want to again send a special thanks to Brownsburg Offensive Coordinator Josh Yoder for joining us on today's show. He was excellent to talk to. Our next show will be in Avon at the 267 location next to Kroger. We record on location on Wednesdays with the show airing on xrbradio.com 1610 a.m. Friday prior to football game time. You can send any feedback, or if you have questions or comments you'd like to hear talked about on the show, you can send those to jp.sinclair, Sinclair, 1988 at gmail.com. And as we talked about, you can follow me on Twitter if you'd like, Sinclair JP. That's another way to get in touch with me and hear anything talked about on the show that you want to talk about. I know we're trying to cover as much Tri-West as we can with the great season that they've had. But maybe next week we can see if we can get one of their players or coaches on the show, because
we tried
they've
this
had
week.
a heck
Coach
of a season.
Cole couldn't make it, but he'd like to be. So this Tri-West may be the tournament team here to watch in Hendricks County.
Yeah, particularly at that 3A level. That'll be an interesting one when you look at some of the draws they could possibly have with Bishop Chatard, who's having an excellent year as well. But we want to thank you for tuning in, and until next time, I'm JP Sinclair for Chris Worley, hoping you support high school athletics as much as we do.